Good day, everyone! Today, I'm going to give you a VIP tour on my version of a day of a life of a nurse here in the United States, Night Shift Edition. I will show it in the most detailed way I can for you guys to understand and have a clearer idea of my nursing routine. So you can compare to see if it's better or if it's worse than your current setup. Or simply, just to find out what it feels like to be a nurse here in the United States. My name is Nurse Juan de la Cruz. I am your OFW nurse. I will start my day by waking up at around 5:30 to 6 p.m., depending on my mood. I work a 12-hour graveyard shift, and my shift starts at 6:45 in the evening and ends at 7 to 7:30 in the morning, usually I mean. I have a loving and beautiful wife, so when I wake up, the food is ready and well prepared. I just need to eat, take a shower, do bathroom stuff, put on my scrubs, kiss my wife goodbye, hop on my car, then leave the house for work. Usually I leave around 6:30ish. I live around 4 miles or 6 kilometers away from my hospital. I live in a rural type area where there is no traffic and the speed limit on the main road is 55 miles per hour. Here, no one really follows the speed limit. It's always plus 10 miles per hour, at least. If you follow the speed limit, which I did for the first 1 to 2 months, someone will always pressure you from the back to run faster, especially on a single lane road. Even grannies here would run above the speed limit, pressuring me to run faster. So now, I usually drive at a speed of 65 to 69 miles per hour, or around 110 km per hour. I can get there as fast as 4 to 5 minutes from my house, which is a really big plus for me, living in a rural place. There's no stress when it comes to traffic, unlike back home where I had to allot at least 1 to 2 hours for my travel time one way. I work in the medical surgical unit in this hospital. And when I reach that hospital, I clock in, go up to the floor, then when I arrive at the nurse's pantry, the incoming charge nurse is dividing the patient census equally based on the number of staff nurses available. And usually, it is by the number of patients and proximity of the room, rarely by acuity or quality of the patients. In this medical surgical floor unit, our ratio is normally from 4 to 7 patients on good days. Then, on bad days, it's 8 to 10 patients, assisted by a CNA. But being busy depends on the kind of patients you have. You can have 10 patients, but still have a chill and relaxed shift. Then, you can have 4 patients, but would have a horrible night. We are given a piece of paper, which was printed out by the previous ward clerk, with very basic table information for all the patients in the floor, like name, sex, doctor, diagnosis, and etc. Then, after dividing and assigning the patients, I will go to the hallway where the rooms are and look for the outgoing nurse or nurses in charge of my patients. I will log into my computer account and set a program to include all of my patients. Then, we do handoff report. I prefer to use the computer while passing report, so when he or she is giving the information, I can verify the information properly. FYI, there is no card decks or any form of paper endorsement. Mostly everything is in the computer. By right, handover report or endorsement should be done at the bedside, wherein we have to involve the patient in this activity. But honestly, at times it takes too much time, and there are some sensitive information or special endorsements that you can pass in from the patient or relatives. And if the patient is sleeping, we prefer not to wake them up, especially if their purpose is only for a bedside report. Waking them up sometimes ends up to be a bad decision, both for the incoming and outgoing nurse. So we have a different methods of receiving the patient. For me, it depends on the nurse who is passing on the report. If he or she is a messy or sloppy nurse, I will go with option 1, wherein the outgoing nurse will pass a report outside the patient's door. Then we will come in to see the patient, and I will do a quick assessment. This is more time consuming than option 2. If you belong to my trusted list of nurses, then I go to option 2, where I will receive a report of all the patients, then I will do my rounds one at a time. Then do a thorough assessment on all of the patients. During my initial rounds, I will introduce myself, remind them on the plan of care for the shift based on the endorsement, update the patient's board, check their telemetry leads or placement and battery, check the infusion pumps, oxygen rate, and of course, assess the patient. For patients who came in with oxygen, or who came in because of respiratory issues, I will always auscultate their lung fields. The charge nurse expects you to do as well. Honestly, I rarely do this back home. Then, if I do listen to the lung sounds before, I don't even know what I'm hearing. I don't even know the difference between the crackles, the roncales, the rails by auscultation sounds. I only know them by definition. So this is a new trick I learned when I arrived here in the United States. It is quite easy if you get the hang of it. I will make a tutorial video of it soon, with auscultation lung sounds as well. So make sure to subscribe. Believe me, if you're coming here to the United States, if and you want to protect your license, you should know how to do this. Then, if the patient came because of abdominal pain, we do auscultation, palpation, and etc. of the abdomen. So basically, I do a quick head-to-toe assessment, which is based on the handover report. I will do this to all of my patients. I have to do the assessment properly, as I will use it on the shift's assessment documentation part later on. The system requires you to key in those assessments or else you cannot complete that particular task list. And a made-up documentation assessment is a good way for you to lose your license here in the US. So it is better to do it right. Also, I will make a video of some of the electronic forms we use during the shift, mainly on the assessment part. So it will be easier for you guys to grasp the idea of this stuff. I try to do the rounds and assessment quickly but thoroughly as possible. Because after I finish doing my rounds, I have to go to the medication room and pull out all of my medications for the shift via the Pixie's MedStation machine. I want to be the first to get all the medication first, as sometimes you have to queue with all the 6 nurses on the floor pulling their own sets of medications, which normally can take around 1 hour. We normally put the medications inside a Ziploc bag per patient with a label outside of it and put them on small bags afterwards. Usually, by 8 p.m., I will be done doing this if I was the first in line at the Pixie's Med Station. Then, I review the medication list and the plan of activities for my patient. Then strategize my administration time to optimize the schedule. The usual medication time is scheduled at 10 p.m., 12 midnight, 6 a.m., and 7 a.m. for the night shift. From the scheduled doses, we have a grace period of 2 hours, meaning we can give the medications 2 hours before and 2 hours after the scheduled time. But in some instances, we give the medications at a weird timing due to adjustment of some of the doses. Then, on top of the regular medications are the PRN medications, which we give any time of the shift, especially for the pain medications. After which, I will go to my supply room and fill up my cart with the usual items I need, like syringes, alcohol swabs, IV tubings, IV kits, IV flashes, IV covers, Mepilex border, and etc. Also, I will get some of the patient's requests, like snacks, water, soda, and put all together in my cow. Not that cow, this cow, computer on wheels. So after securing all of those things, I usually start distributing those items room by room, including giving some of the PR medications, or sometimes including the 10 p.m. medications as well. During this time, I will try to tidy up my patient and make sure they have a preventive care measures they need, like Mepilex borders for patients who are at high risk for developing pressure ulcers, based on the Braden score or scale, and SCADS machine or TED stackings for patients at risk for developing DVT, check bedtime blood sugars, and many more activities. Then, if I have time, I will try to fill up some of the assessment forms before it reaches 10 p.m. Because at 10 p.m., I can give the rest of my patient their 10 p.m. scheduled medications. And if possible, I include the 12 midnight medications as well, if spacing is adequate. I have to do it one room at a time, bringing my cow or computer on wheels and scanning the patient's ID band and medications in the patient's room. We have to scan them properly, as it is safer to do so, and also it is per protocol. Also, we are being monitored with a scanning compliance every month, so I make sure I don't fall down below the standards. I usually finish giving my medications around 12 midnight to 1 a.m. Then, I will go for my break. By right, the break time should be divided into 3, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and another 15 minutes. But normally, I will just have a 45-minute break one time, then another 15-minute break later on in the shift. In my nursing career, this is the only second hospital wherein I can have my full break in peace. Most of the time, I often get to use the full hour for my break. Unlike back home and one of the hospitals I work overseas, which typically I get a 15-minute break per shift, if you're lucky enough. Sometimes, none. Then, after my break, I will head back to my computer and document all of my assessment, which will take around 1 hour. Once I'm done, I will review the charts, find out what the day shift forgot to do, and what the doctor has written and planned for the patient, in preparation for giving a report for the charge nurse and morning shift. Also, At 2 in the morning, I will do my 2 hourly rounds, which we are required to do for the entire shift. For the first half of the shift, 7 to 12 midnight, I am with them doing those tasks. So 2 a.m. is quite a settled time during the night shift, unless we have an admission. Admission typically comes at any time during the night. During this time, I also check on the central monitor to check on their ECG readings or leads if they are working fine. If patients need turning, we will do the turning. If they need perineal care, I will try to help them, especially for the CNAs. Aside from those many things I did earlier, there are more tasks we normally do, in which you can slot in any time of the shift. Like blood transfusion, give or request an order for pain medications from the doctor, usually through the charge nurse, transfer a patient to ICU, Code Green or Code Violet, wherein all of the guys in the entire hospital should come to the scene to intimidate the patient to behave. Code Gray, missing patient, happens a lot at night, especially when the patients are with psych history or with history of drug abuse. And of course, Code Blue. More things, like admissions from the ER with endorsement, discharging patient. We do have late discharges, especially for those going to a step-down facility, like a nursing home or a rehab facility. Discharges can happen as late as 3 in the morning. NGT feeding, usually via continuous pump. Wound dressing, IV insertion, NGT insertion, Foley catheter insertion. Transfer to the other hospital if requested by the doctor, or if patient needs a higher level of care. Also, if the ICU is full. Then, by 4 to 5 a.m., the bedside nurses will give a brief report to our charge nurse on all of our patients, so she could pass it on to the next shift. We do it one at a time. At 5 a.m., phlebotomy will start coming in and poking patients to get their blood specimen drawn. If the patient has a line, like a PIC line or a PICC line, Mediport, CVL, then I have to draw those bloods from them. Phlebotomies are not allowed to touch those things, unless there is a specific order from the doctor not to use those lines to draw bloods. Then the phlebotomists have to come in to take their bloods. Make sure to remember this every time you're planning to draw blood from a line. We also give them medications due for the 6 a.m. period and do blood sugar checks on other patients, as well as weigh the patients, mostly those with the CHF or fluid retention or imbalance issues. We also do some of the waiting. We try to do this to help the morning shift. We do the pre-surgical baths for patients going for procedure, which should be done before the end of our shift. Mostly, it is the CNA that does that part, except when I'm on a different floor, wherein there's no CNA. So, meaning on that floor, you are your own charge nurse, your bedside nurse, and a certified nursing assistant, all in one. 6 a.m., I will do my rounds at the patient, after which I will close the 2 hourly round charts. Also, I will start closing or partially close the nursing process notes. Usually, by this time, the lab results will come back. So I will check on my computer, see if there is a critical lab results or anything that's abnormal. If there is a critical level, the laboratory staff will call us to inform. Once they do, we have to inform the physician or to do something about it. Then, at 6:45 to 7 in the morning, we start handing off the patient to the next shift, which usually ends at around 7:15 to 7:30 in the morning. If the incoming nurse is the same nurse who gave you the report at the start of your shift, then endorsement can even take only 5 minutes, which is one of the things I like about working the night shift. After handing off the patient, I go return my stuff, clean up, wash hands, grab my bag, then clock out, hop on my car, and drive home as fast as I can. Unless it is winter time, wherein I have to melt the ice first and remove some of the snow from my windshields, in order for me to drive safely. Then, when I reach home, I strip half naked at the garage and bathe with alcohol, all because of these COVID issues. Good thing I have an indoor garage now. Then, head straight to the shower, dress up comfortably, then go hug my wife, and eat my well-prepared breakfast. See how spoiled I am? I will usually stay awake until 10 in the morning, or max at 12 noon. Night shift is typically easier than day shift, as a lot of more things are happening during the day. But it doesn't mean that we do not experience toxicity in our shift. Believe me, having 1 or 2 demented patients in the floor can be a big problem for the entire team. And that's only one of the night shift struggles. Another problem with the night shift is fighting your sleepy head, to the point that coffee is not working anymore. Then, when you get home, the battle of trying to get a good rest is on, especially if you have a lot of day walkers around or near your house. Also, having too much coffee during the night can take its toll on this. So I darken my room with a blackout curtain, then sleep back for the next shift to come. There are a lot more things I wanted to share and explain about my nursing life here in the US. About some rules, work culture, and management style, which I was not able to emphasize on this particular video. So probably I will make a part 2 video for you guys to have a better idea of what it is like to be a nurse here in the US. Also, I will create other videos that is essential as well as nice to know about moving here in the US. So make sure to hit the subscribe button now, ring the notification bell, and share to your friends, or better yet, post in your FB, IG, Twitter, and share the love. Please put in some of your questions on the comment box below or suggestions for the next videos you want me to upload. Again, this is Nurse Juan de la Cruz, your OFW nurse. Thank you for watching.